Maritime Made on Eastlink is presented by Nova Scotia Business Inc., helping companies large and small grow through export.
At Eastwood Pottery in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Sarah and Peter Eastwood are creating beautiful small batch designs with a nautical theme.
I studied ceramics at NSCAD University, and after a long time away from ceramics not working in the creative industry, I felt the need for an outlet for my creative work. So back in 2016, we decided in June that summer to start our pottery. So we bought all of our equipment and got set up, and so we've been doing that since then.
To begin making mugs, clay is cut and weighed. Next, the clay is wedged to align the clay particles and remove air bubbles. The height gauge on the throwing wheel is set, and a tile is set in place on the wheel. The clay is worked as the wheel turns. Water is used to help shape the clay. The speed is controlled by a foot pedal. Different hand tools and techniques are used to help create the shape of the mug. The potter pushes down through the center of the clay to create the opening of the mug. Using a sponge and fingers, the sides and the lip of the mug are then shaped. A metal rib smooths the texture of the outside walls and removes the slurry or watery working layer of the clay. Reaching inside, the bottom is shaped and made smooth. A key design element is made on the exterior walls of the mug. This is a wave design. Now the foot of the mug is created. The foot is the bottom surface. The mug is cut with a wire from the working surface, and the tile is lifted out of the wheel. At this stage, the mugs will air dry for a few hours until they're leather hard. While the mugs dry, more clay is wedged in preparation to pull the handles. The clay is worked in a circular motion and shaped into a cone. The clay is dipped in water, then literally pulled into the shape of a handle. The handle is cut from the cone of clay and set on a round surface to help form the shape. Once dry, the handles are ready to be attached to the mugs. The surface of the mug is scored to improve the bond. A thumb rest is pressed into the top end of the handle, and the end is trimmed, shaped, and scored. Then slip or liquid clay is brushed on and the handle is attached. The other end of the handle is trimmed for length and then attached in the same way. The extra slip is smoothed with a brush, and the shape of the lip is checked with a round glass. The mugs will dry for several hours. Once they're considered bone dry, they're ready for color. A small amount of colored underglaze is prepared. Working on a banding wheel, the color is brushed on, creating a gradient of color and depth in the design. A silkscreen transfer process is the next layer in the design of this piece. Black underglaze is silkscreened onto a printing plate, then transferred onto the mug to beautiful effect. The transferred dory design is hand-painted in a vibrant yellow and red underglaze. A bisque firing is done in the kiln at this stage. Then, after being glazed further, a second firing is done to create the finished glossy works of art. At Eastwood Pottery, they also create hand-built nautical pottery designs, in particular, lighthouses.
The kind of work that I do is miniatures and replica lighthouses in particular. So I have a whole series of lighthouses that I make and hand build. I was inspired to do this because I come from, I guess I would be the third generation of people involved in lighthouses. My grandfather was a lighthouse keeper in Machias Seal Island in New Brunswick. And my father was also involved in lighthouse keeping after he retired from being a teacher, and he was involved in restoring and preserving lighthouses in New Brunswick as well. So now I didn't plan on doing this, but it sort of came to me, and now I'm in the business of remembering lighthouses and helping people remember the lights in their community that have guided fishermen for generations in their communities, and it's just a way to remember our past and to keep the light going in those communities.
Wedged clay is loaded into the extruder to create the tower shape of the Cape Hatteras replica lighthouse design. The extruded clay is cut to length and rolled into a tapered cylinder. The top is trimmed for a smooth finish. Rolled clay is laid out and design elements are cut out: the base, the middle, and the top. Plastic is used to prevent sticking. The base pieces are pounded out to the desired shape, and the maker's mark is stamped to the underside of each base. The bottom section of the lighthouse is textured using a brick stamp. The doors and windows are stamped next. The artist marks the design elements of the tower into the clay using a knife. All the pieces of the lighthouse design are attached by texturing the surface, applying slip, and smoothing the finished look with a brush. The next layer is stamped out and placed on top. The lantern section of the lighthouse is next. Beautifully hand-carved details are made in the clay, and it's attached. Final design details are made throughout the piece before it's painted with underglaze and bisque fired. Finally, it's dipped in clear glaze before the final firing, creating a glossy, finished piece of stunning art.
Back in March, when everything got shut down, we were sort of left wondering how we were going to survive because we depend so heavily on markets. And the markets were suddenly all canceled, and we spend, between Christmas and the spring market season, we spend a lot of time and energy creating work to get ready to sell. And so we knew that makers in general would have lots of materials and lots of work ready to sell, and so we created the Nova Scotia Makers Market, and it's been really great. We've had a lot of makers join. It's created a sense of community, a new place to sell, and also at Christmas, it was amazing to see the support from Nova Scotia and the Maritimes because people did buy local. There was a huge amount of support for all the makers, and we have probably around 60 makers. So it was amazing, and we did get funded from the NSBI for that project, and it's been great to see the support.
I'm excited for the opportunities to get back in front of people. Getting back to the markets is something I think we've really missed over the past year. So with the hope and with the summer and fall coming that we'll be able to get back in front of our customers and be able to talk to them, that's a real life-giving thing to be able to be at the market and talk to your customers, and I think that's something we miss, and we're looking forward to that.